Levantaré mi bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. Yo levantaré mi bandera, wow. Levantaré mi bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. No, no, y es que hay mucho sentimiento, lo grito al viento, de ser latino nunca me arrepiento. Lo digo desde la Suiza centroamericana, rebota en Colombia y en Dominicana.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Latin Babbler, host of the Latin Babbler Show, along with Cecilia Ortiz, our content manager, and one of the hosts of the new upcoming show, La Vida Poetry. We have very special guests joining us today. Sera De Lobos, they, writer and director, Los Angeles-based artist who has over a decade of post-production experience in TV and film, and Cristina Trujillo, she, her, producer, the CEO of full-service media tech and entertainment company agency, Ream Media. And they have an amazing movie that is called Cenizas, which is about a haunting story of redemption and ancestral power to correct injustice, set to come out later this year. Sera and Cristina, welcome for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Right, so this should be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and have a candid discussion about what we're trying to do. The whole purpose is to try to get the word out. So that's what we're going to do. So, Seth, I'm going to start with you. You're a designer and painter by day and a storyteller by night. It's almost like superhero status. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a designer. I graduated from art school around 2005. And I've been working in post-production, doing motion graphics for film and television since 2005. Most of my work revolves around promotional ads and movie trailers and things like that. But I've also freelanced as a designer, and I've got to work with like a lot of different independent artists, which is where I got a lot of my understanding and, on-the-spot training in regards to filmmaking. I've also had a chance to do visual effects supervision and directing in that sense. And as a painter, I've been drawing since I was 4 years old, and which is, why I got into art school and everything like that. So on my spare time, I like to paint and, do a lot of fine art. And one of my biggest passions that I never really put any like real energy to until like probably the past 10 years has always been writing and storytelling. Like both of my parents are migrants from Guatemala, and we have such a deep connection with telling each other stories. And it just kind of it's just something that I've always around. And so I instinctively, always gravitated to writing my own stories and just keeping that kind of lineage alive.
Oh, very cool. So at the end of the day, when I pass away, you're going to write mine. And that way,
let's do
it. it'll be an autobiography written by Sera De Lobos. And then, it won't be very interesting. It'll be like 2 or 3 pages long. And it'll be something simple.
I'll pad
a
it,
long
buddy.
time.
Too humble. Yeah.
That's all right.
We have a long time to bring up all the accolades.
Oh my God, I know.
We're going to make it 1 page long then. So it's not
a whole page.
So Cristina, you are the CEO of a company that gives opportunities to individuals in the media and the tech industry. And you provide solutions for like filming, digital marketing, website, publicity needs. And you make it an effort to have people from all diverse backgrounds. What made you want to start Ream Media?
Thank you for the question. So what made me want to start Ream Media, it was a collaboration effort between my young son at the time and myself. Essentially, I come from the nonprofit sector, 14 years in community housing development. And within that framework, I discovered that the stories on the ground, whether it was the need, right, of the individuals in our community within these vulnerable populations, or that are on the ground, boots on the ground, serving the communities that are in need, and implementing programs, effective and efficient programs that actually do work to break that poverty cycle. So all these amazing stories have never really been told to the extent that we see reality shows, right, or other entertainment shows being told. There's not a great I don't know, there's never been this like captivating like visuals and storylines where it just keeps people coming back and supporting the work. And it also can inform politicians, legislators about the need for particular programs. And so understanding that there was like this lack of, I knew that perhaps the best way, the secret sauce would be to identify artists such as Sera, such as other artists that I have within my talent pool that actually come from these communities. So they're artists themselves, visual artists, writers, filmmakers, graphic artists, and all of that, the whole entire scope. But they come from the communities that that are perhaps our clients are serving, right? And so when you have artist, say for example, a photographer who has experienced poverty, right, and the traumas of poverty, and perhaps even lack of housing. If you have that photographer on an assignment for a client in the social impact sector that is looking for documenting, right, the stories on the ground, because of their visceral experience, they're going to be able to capture the dignity of the people and the full story because they're using their visceral lens to capture it. Unlike, I'm sure there's plethora of amazing photographers out there, obviously, and filmmakers and so forth, that have the skills, that have the technicalities in place. However, there's always that missing link, right? If you can't really relate to the story, how are you truly going to capture it to be able to then capture your audience? And so that was really the need that I had identified and why I really strive to diverse, right? Because it's our secret sauce, not so secret sauce. And another thing too is one thing that I really want to work hard for is to end this, or to put it, change the narrative about artists having to be starving artists. That's something that I cannot stand. I cannot stand folks that do not value us, that do not value our work, that they come to us asking for a video or a photo shoot, and they're like, oh, it's only 1 minute long. And they really want it for like $200 or pennies, right? And other artists will take it because they need that, right, to survive. But it's because there's that narrative that if you're an artist, you should be a starving artist. And so, because I'm also very economically development driven and a policy wonk in that scope, I want to be able to empower artists to not have to, be starving artists, right? And
did you say a policy wonk?
Yeah,
that's what I heard.
Yeah, sorry. I love policy and I love reading and keeping up with legislation that's gonna, make an impact.
You had history in lobbying.
Yeah, small, history there when I was running some programs. But it's all about our financial empowerment, right? And how can we change that narrative? And how can we get folks to understand our value? So, very long story, but that is the whole, the big enchilada of us.
It's an amazing story because I have the same. I literally have that same concept where I'm always trying to. We just spoke about it in one of the interviews that we had. Creating generational wealth, and one of the ways we do that is by trying to get out of this circle theme that we always have to struggle in order to get to from A to B without having some type of reward. Doing the time. Now, there's a good way to do it, and there's a different way to do it, and the best way to do it is to turn around and get it out there and put yourself out there. And I'm gonna bring it up here, but I think you added somebody new to the group, right? She may be.
You're so lucky.
She may be in this room.
Yeah,
you're so lucky.
Yes. Thank you so much, Sissy.
So if you didn't know, Cecilia is now a part of Remedia, so that's absolutely amazing. So
Baby,
hardest working person that you will ever see, right there. Hardest
I will
working
put my
person.
heart and soul into everything I do.
You.
Yes, she does.
I love that.
Yes, she does. Probably the only person who's awake at the same time as I am.
The booty.
Asking me questions.
She's amazing. And see, thank you. And I'm so honored, right? So Sera is also part of our talent team and our team here in our familia and now Ceci. And the whole thing is about when I'm vetting a project, I'm vetting clients that are really going to value their work and compensate them at their rate, at their deserving rate. So they are in good hands with Remedia. So, and I couldn't be more honored.
How do you and Sera become connected on this project?
Oh my God. So interestingly, I'm going to try to make this as short as humanly possible. I was doing a workshop with a community leader who's in the Bay Area. And, it's about grant writing. And I think what he did was he posted about the artists that he was, helping in the workshops. And I think that's where Cristina through Remedia saw my work. And so because of that, I saw Remedia, and I always had it in my head. I was like, okay, I have to keep this person in mind, moving forward with making Cenizas. Eventually, as time progressed or whatever, I thought, well, why don't I hit her up? And so I found her on our Instagram posts, and I was like, let's see what happens. So I sent her an email, direct message, I guess. And then she replied right away. And I felt so blessed that she was exactly the right person that I wanted to work with. Like her energy. I love, her origin story with her company, because that's, in being intentional in making a film, my first film, she's exactly everything that I would want in someone to go through, through this with. Yes. So, that's kind of how we met. We met through a direct message on Instagram.
Alliance.
Yeah.
Yep. They
Look,
slid
you didn't go to
into my
request.
DMs. They just
I slid into
I was
So-
just going to interrupt and say you slid in her DMs.
You slid into her DMs. Let's not talk too much about Cristina, because what's going to happen is her head's going to get like really big, and
Cristina
then she's
is
not even
one of
going
the
to fit on the
most.
screen.
She's
and
like
then-
one of the most awesome, humble people you'll ever meet.
Absolutely.
Look, see,
She's amazing.
Oh, now we're embarrassing her. Now. So, all right. So let's talk about the movie Cenizas. I have a small clip I want to play for our audience, and that way they can catch the full clip once we have the interview out, and it'll be on our website. You guys can go check the full clip on the website along with all the information that we're going to be providing for that. Now, let me go ahead and play this clip.
Hi, I want to take this opportunity to share with you about my film project, Cenizas. Cenizas is a story of redemption within the face of adversity. We start with the journey of a mother and a daughter migrating from Guatemala to the US. And as it is the case in many situations, once they reach the Arizona desert, they find themselves in danger. Since 1998, at least 7,805 human beings have lost their lives while attempting to cross the US-Mexico border. More than 3,500 people remain disappeared. The painful reality of this is something that has always lived with me. It makes me treasure every story that any one of my elders has shared with me.
I love statistics. I'm a statistics guy. I don't love these statistics though. This is terrible. I mean, there's nothing about these statistics that will make you sit there and go and, oh my goodness, these are great statistics. Since 1998, at least 7,805 human beings have lost their lives while attempting to cross the U.S.-Mexican border. More than 3,500 people remain disappeared. And this is coming from, colibricenter.org. Now, we've been tapping on this topic for quite some time. We've tapped about it from an immigration standpoint. The different types of numbers that we're seeing coming to the border, the journey, and we've been trying to kind of educate people what to do in those type of situations, whether it's families who have people coming or people who are at the border. And so for me, the story we've told has been more from a perspective of people who are trying to cross, never from the ones that didn't make the journey.
Yeah.
And that is why, this movie is so powerful, because we're tapping into something that rarely gets talked about. All the politics is about, people trying to cross and come in and blah, blah, blah. Never from the ones we've lost along the way. So very, very important. And I'm glad that you're making a movie that taps into that topic, because it's something that's very important.
And to make, to really look at the bigger picture, for us as Latinos, as Latinx people, as migrants, there is that connection. And it is a very, you said something that really resonates with me, which is we never talk about those who didn't make it, right? And so in understanding that, there's a bigger, more important, more like painful reality, which is a lot of migrant feet that didn't make it even before borders were created. That was created because of colonization, right? So in saying, all of the people that didn't make it, our communities as Black, Indigenous people of color, we have a history of erasure and of a lot of migrant feet not making it, in our own land, which is ridiculous, really.
That's the ridiculous aspect of it. So
Yeah.
And Sera, you pretty much already answered this question right now, but you are the writer and the director for this movie, Cenizas. Mm-hmm. What made you decide to tell this story?
Yeah, so that's a wonderful question. And to answer that question, if you guys are comfortable, I would love to tell you, because before I can tell you why, I have to tell you the what, right? And so what is Cenizas? So I would love to share with you guys what Cenizas is to me, and then I'll tell you why I wrote it. So Cenizas is a film, I grew up in a community predominantly Black and migrant. And so there's a lot of Caribbean migrant folks, a lot of people of color. And it was different from growing up in a community predominantly Mexican, because I'm from Los Angeles. And predominantly it is like the Latino community that stands out the most is Mexican, right? But I didn't grow up in that part of the neighborhood. I grew up more towards Inglewood. And so it was a just completely different environment. And so I got a sense of the importance in the community and the community I grew up in the spiritual practices, right? And spirituality created a sense of community. And that sense of community created a certain amount of dignity and identity. And it gave people the ability to have a forward movement, right? So in regards to that, as a person who grew up like watching films, Cenizas isn't just a story of a migrant mother and her child, and then we don't know what happened, right? That's like a visual. But the film is really about how we as a community can use these resources, and spirituality being one of those. And one of the main themes in growing up that way is understanding that the human experience doesn't end when you die, right? And for us, a lot of us in the community, that it's a transition. It's a transition into the other part of your existence, right? It's more of a metaphysical one. And so I thought to myself, how wonderful would it be to use these beliefs in the community to really show how you may take away our body, but through these, because of our beliefs and our spirituality and how we connect as a community, we have this strength, this ancestral strength to stand up for each other, even if we're not physically there, right? And so horror is what the movie is, the genre of the film is, and horror really allowed me to do that. And so why I wrote it is exactly for that, because I was going through a transition myself. I was letting go of my dad because he was transitioning into, not being with us. And it was a whole year process. So I stopped working as a designer and, took care of him full time. So it was one of those situations where I found myself to have some, release, a little catharsis. What could I do, for myself? So one of my friends, she's like, "You're always writing things. Why don't you write like a little short something, and we'll film it. And we'll go to the desert and we'll film something quick." But I can never do anything just minimally, so I wrote this story in like 2.5 days, and it isn't the script that I have now, but it was the bones of it were there that it within was it 2 days, but it was also like a part of transitioning with my dad and him, him physically leaving and just watching it happen and mourning that process. So that's why I did it. At the time I was watching, I'm a fan of horror films. And the two films that I reference anytime anyone asks, like the inspiration behind Cenizas is this documentary called Who is Diana Cristal, which you get to see the journey of a migrant being retold, right? And the documentary talks about the remains of migrants that are found in the desert, and
that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and people who are never identified because of politics, because of all the, what is it, like the environmental things that go through body decays, and no documentation on folks, right? Because they're trying to get in here. And so the documentary talks about how different organizations are trying to connect these remains to their families back in mostly Central America. And so I was watching that, and then at the same time, one of my old and favorite horror movies, that's a fictional horror movie, Poltergeist. And so I was just like, what if
Wait, that's fictional?
Yeah, I know, right? That didn't happen to those white people. But so I was watching
Gina coming out.
Yeah. And so I connected this. I was like, well, as people with strong roots in the after existence, what if our spirits could come back and redeem us, so that's where the idea for Cenizas and the reason why I wrote it. Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to see it right now.
Me
All
too.
I know is if I go upstairs and my room is spinning like it did in Poltergeist,
I don't know.
and the next thing I know, I'm in this like giant cocoon. I'm coming after you, Sera. Because what was fictional has now become a reality, and it's because you brought it back.
Look,
there's a reason there's a Poltergeist too.
Yeah. Done the right way.
So did you draw the storyboard yourself?
Oh, no.
Are those your drawings?
I hired a professional storyboard artist. His name is Turner Lang. One of the big important things moving forward with the film was to make sure that if I was going to tell this story about the community and, our ancestors and all of these beautiful things that makes us unique and special sauce, as Cristina says, it has to be done by us. So meeting Cristina I was like, that's my person, because her values were to have, to create things by our own community. And one of the things that I knew that I wanted to make sure that throughout the whole process, we needed to be intentional. We need to be intentional. And we need,
in everything.
Exactly, in everything. And so that way, it's very aligned and it's very guided by our ancestors and by our elders and by the people that are still here, and, young folks who are going to take this with them as well, So all of these, it was always important to have that and to showcase the best of the folks in our own community. And Turner did these beautiful storyboards, and it was so wonderful because I would meet up with him, and he's such a he's a comic book artist as well, and he was just like,
oh, very cool.
Yeah, he was like, what if we try this camera angle? And I was like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds so rad. But
shout out to Turner.
Yeah, Turner Lang. Yeah.
It's like you can catch him at his IG and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I know, right?
Right.
I don't remember it by heart, but I think if you Google Turner Lang on the...
Right.
Yeah,
Turner, that was your one shout out, and she couldn't come out. That
Sorry,
was your
Turner, I
one
tried.
shout out.
I'm sorry, brother.
He's going to see this and be like, we talk all the time.
So now, Cristina, you came on as a producer. What made you say, this is a project that I want to jump into?
Of the storyboard. When I pressed play, I was immediately drawn in. And I mean, I'm assuming, y'all have already seen the storyboard. I've never seen anything like that. It was so strong. I've never seen anything like that. Very much so. Now, the fact that, it's a storyboard, so you don't really have, the people playing these characters. So it's a storyboard, but yet it just draws you in immediately. I was able to immediately relate to it. I had my mom next to me when I and I was like, Ma, you should watch this with me. I just this was just sent to me. And so she started watching it with me. And then as we were watching it, she's like, I can't. And she just felt so visceral, like a visceral, response to it. And then, of course, I continued to watch it. And then I understood why she felt that way. It's like essentially I migrated here with my mom. I was 3 years old, right? And in some ways, even though I did not cross the border with her, I had my own traumatic experience crossing that border. We'll be told at a different date and time, but she did make that treacherous journey through the frontera. And then we ended up reuniting in South Central with other family members here. So seeing just even a glimpse of it brought so much back for her, right? And I knew immediately, this is it. When you feel a visceral, just a shake, in your heart, in your system, that's when you know that you're watching masterpiece. For me, that's what it was, because it's through these stories, it's through Cenizas that we can tell a story so effectively and efficiently to be able to change the narrative, right? To be able to tell the story as it is meant to be told, with all the beautiful elements, with everything that it encompasses, and with the goal of creating impact, right? With the goal of being able to draw more people in, to have folks feel like they can relate. We have more than just, the parent and the child, right? We have a grandmother, we have activists, we have these vigilante border patrols, right? That are just so xenophobic, right? And then you're like, you got to study them and be like, why are they feeling this way? And why are some of them, if not all, Latinos, hating on their own? You feel me? And then all of a sudden, it feeling like, we're not alone, because we have the power of our ancestors that are here to protect us, right? And so, truth be told, I'm a little baby when it comes to horror. I started learning how to love horror because of Sera. You feel me? I'm like, don't be. My son loves horror. He loves it.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, this makes sense, and absolutely makes sense to me why it has to have, the medium of horror into it, to really bring it all in. And I loved everything about it. Of course, very relatable to my own personal story.
If I can touch on something in regards to why it's horror. When I was younger, I watched this film by Guillermo del Toro called El Espinazo del Diablo. And it's a yes? Okay.
Yes.
And so I will breathe
anything
of
Guillermo
course,
del Toro.
right?
I'm about to go see his movie.
Yes. Guillermo has this beautiful way of romanticizing a ghost story. And I remember seeing that film when I was very young and thinking, how poetic to use the grotesqueness of the trauma that this innocent child went through in the film. But he's the hero in a very big way as well in the story. And so, I think that for me, that kind of cemented my relationship with horror, and why I always feel like, as genre films, they're like poetry, and it's they give you the tools, and they give you the space to say something in a creative, poetic way,
Cristina spent time with Sera, and all of a sudden she's swallowing all of the Conjuring movies and
Yeah.
She's like, I saw 1, 2, and 3, and the last one was really trash, but I saw that one too. You know, so that's amazing.
Let's put it together with one.
Yeah. That is hilarious. So you're now at the funding stage.
Yes.
I think you guys got a GoFundMe set up. What is the process like for that, so that they understand? And then by when are you guys trying to reach your goal?
So we're at our fundraising stage right now. And the hope is to get there before around the fall, preferably before fall, end of summer, to, reach our desired goal. And really, it's also a matter of we want people to contribute also because that gives them a little more responsibility in keeping in touch with the project, and feeling like they're part of it as well. It's in keeping in that spirit of keeping it as a community project, most of the funding is because of the location we want to shoot. It's a little bit pricey, but when Cristina and I saw the location, we were like, it looks like the storyboard, It sounds like your story. It sounds like your written words.
I mean, we're in LA, so you could probably pick that out everywhere.
Yeah, and it's in Lancaster, the location,
But it's really
that
perfect.
makes sense.
Yeah,
If y'all were to see
That
it,
makes sense.
If you were to see it, you would.
No,
you'd be like, yeah,
I've
it's
looked
perfect.
at areas of Lancaster. I can completely agree with that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a friend who lives in Lancaster. I'm gonna go pay her a visit
let
and
me
just
know.
pretend I'm there to visit her and watch the shooting of the movie.
Oh, if your friend has a desert home, let us know, and then we can lower.
I'll
our
ask her.
I think I'm supposed to be cast as the lead male, right? I was told that. I was told that was a part of the agreement for this. I'm supposed to
He's
be the
getting
guy
his
who.
director's chair.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
the two
it's
lead
not the
males
case?
are border vigilantes, so I don't know if you would want to. Well,
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. Hey,
No.
it's clout. I can add it to my IMDb.
Perfect.
Watch his reels. He can pull it off.
You can channel the darkness.
Yeah, channel the dark side of our.
I'll channel the dark side of the babbler.
Yeah.
It's gotta
Your
get me
inner
into it,
Darth
too.
Vader.
Yes, I was just thinking that set up. I was like,
We all said it. It was gonna happen.
yeah.
We were all navigating around it.
That's funny. But what are besides the funding? What are other ways that the community can get involved to make this project happen? Because I think, look, it's very important that when whoever's listening to the interview, the audience who's trying to basically, we're manifesting that this movie is going to come out at the time it needs to come out, and so it's important that we as a community support this, not just financially, from the fact that we need to have these stories being told. Because I love what you mentioned before, which is that, we get through our physical bodies, and then after that, people are basically going to have to deal with our essence. That's such a powerful statement to have on there. And so to all my enemies, yes, I'm floating afterwards and I'm coming after you. So
I see you.
But yeah, right. But I want to make sure that they have more than one avenue that they can go ahead and help out. So whether it's spreading the word, whether it's some type of big old follow the campaign, push. What are some ways that you guys have that you think will help get not just the word of the movie out, but the financial goal reached?
First and foremost, I want a special shout out to all the contributors, all the donors who have donated when we launched during Giving Tuesday of last year. Y'all mean the world to us. Thank you for believing in our project, straight off the bat. So that is so important for me to say. Because this is a community-driven project, because we want to be able to cast organically, ensuring that, that our cast is viscerally connected to their role. And also when we're filming, right, we are going to have an Airbnb, want to make it all communal, right? Communal, type of living while we're there, and to make it fun and have a, family kind of orientation towards it. It's just really important that, essentially, to support the film, we want you to feel part of Cenizas, right? Part of this community. So it's just not, we don't want you to feel like you're outside just supporting this film. We want to invite you in to connect with us, to engage with us, slide into our DMs, right? Email us, right? You can just let us know. I mean, ambassadors, yes, y'all want to we can send you a media kit if you want to share about Cenizas, right? And like add your own story, right? To your post to let others know like how does Cenizas resonate with you, or what's your migrant story, right? Or what's your parents or your grandparents' migrant story. So it's really about, really coming in to help us build this community through intentional engagement, just honest communication and those type of relationships. We're really looking to build a community here.
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a story that needs to be told. And I'm very honored to even be here to hopefully put the word out. So if you're listening, if donate, spread the word, whatever.
Sure,
you want to be part of this.
Yes.
You want to be part of this. It's historical in a way, right?
We're going to need extras too.
Absolutely.
Like banners.
I was going to
we're
ask,
gonna need-
do you need a documentary, picture taker of the Airbnb and there?
Yeah.
Hey, Cecilia takes good pictures.
Yeah,
I believe
she's
you.
a great content creator.
I'm telling you.
Thank you.
But I honestly do think we need a banner that's kind of catchy, something that says, this is my story or something like that, and then people can just keep popping that out. So that way it's something that that's the one thing I'm good at with slogans. So that's $5.99 for that one.
Oh no.
And then
all right, I guess
residuals.
Do you take Venmo?
PayPal, Venmo.
That's so good.
Have you seen that reel? I take PayPal.
I
take PayPal.
I gotta get on that Cash App though. All right.
No, he's gonna be like, I take crypto.
Sarah,
I take crypto. He's gonna say.
Oh snap!
Oh right, NFTs. That's the place
future.
now.
Yeah,
that's a scary future.
I gotta jump in on that.
You gotta jump on the NFT train. So, Sera and Cristina, if people wanted to follow you or get more information about the project, where do we go?
Yeah, so for Cenizas, it's you can go to the Instagram at Cenizas Film, and there we have a link tree, and it has links to like all of our social media. There's also links to everyone who's working on it, and links to the fundraiser. But yes, any repost and all that stuff. But that's how you can find us in nutshell.
Very awesome. And then we are going to actually provide all of that information on the page that we're going to be setting up for support, so that they can go ahead and look up both the trailer. We'll have a backstory. We'll make sure you have a place where we can set up the donations so that they can go ahead and contribute to that. So she's running out of light. And we're running out of show. That's it.
Very hard campfire. Look.
Yeah, look. She's channeling
very
her
horror
ancestors.
type. You should have done the whole interview like that.
The light
Sera
just
is
kept
channeling
it. I was like,
the ancestry right there. You see that?
Yes,
right
y'all
there.
follow our film.
The spirit,
Yes,
the
word of
spirits
mouth,
of all that.
spread the word.
That is so good.
All
This is
right, that
as much
is-
light as I can have.
Look,
Sorry, y'all.
hey, that's scary movies. Scary movies
I'm
right
keeping
there. They
on
all
brand
start
like
with that light.
Cristina. Yes.
That's
Blair Witch
wonderful,
Project.
y'all.
Blair Witch Project stuff right there. See? We're not going to
Yes.
see her after
Yeah,
after
within
3
2
seconds.
minutes.
We're
Yeah.
not going to see Sera.
As a content creator who needs movie phone, that's what we need right
That's
now.
what we need right there. We have Sera and the great mind that they provide. There you go. All right. So that is our show. Please support this amazing project. Sera and Cristina, thank you for joining us. We thank you for sharing your stories. We thank you for sharing this amazing project. You can follow us on at Latin Babbler Show, www.latinbabbler.com, on Radio 89, our new YouTube channel, which this is where it's going to be happening. Subscribe right down there, that button right there. And along with everybody here, we're out.
Desde Nicaragua hasta Costa Rica, con esta canción todo mundo se identifica. Llamen a los chilenos y a los cubanos, llamen a Puerto Rico y a los mexicanos, que ya se armó la rumba. Desde Panamá hasta Ecuador, vámonos a Perú y luego hasta Salvador. Que se escuche en Brasil y Argentina. Yo quiero un grito de mi gente latina. Ay, bandera, estando en mi país o estando allá afuera, porque para mí, mira, no existen fronteras. Yo levantaré mi bandera.